Brad Evans and Double G here for Thompson to Clark. And you know, Brad, my focus is entirely on baseball now. Basketball is dead to me.
Yeah.
The Warriors lost the Lakers. Brian and I will be back sometime this week to break down the end of the season. And, you know, the offseason for the Warriors is going to be really crazy. So I imagine there's going to be lots of interest. So not that I wanted the Warriors to lose in any way. I wanted to see another championship, but there's going to be a lot of content for the podcast, but that's what we hope to have for this show. Is we just hope to have a lot of content for the Giants, and we're going to check in about that a little bit later with a segment that you have for us. But why don't we check in on the latest happenings of the Giants this week? They made some announcements over the weekend, I guess we start, which is, looks like it's Casey Schmitt's position, right? Like him and JD Davis, because they sent down David VR, who was hitting a very Conforto-like average there. What's I think we've talked about this before on the show. Like, what's the new Mendoza line? Because the Giants have a couple of guys.
Yeah, I think the new Mendoza line is like 170. I mean, it's not 200 anymore. That's for sure. Yeah, and it's not just because of the Giants. I mean, that's like Major League Baseball wide. Averages are up. BABIP is up without the shift, things in the pitch clock and everything else. And that type of stuff. But you still see the low batting averages are really, really low. And it's, and again, when you're a home run or strikeout team like the Giants, you're going to have some really cool looking power numbers with some weird RBI, because you're going to have guys who hit 7 home runs with 14 runs driven in, who are hitting 170. And that's what we've got, so it's ugly, and it's May. So the numbers are always going to be even weirder.
So the Giants kickoff, this is not football. First pitch for the Giants is in about an hour as of this recording.
They might as well kick it off. They're punting a lot of wins lately. I can tell you that.
So they have Philadelphia here for 3, and then the Marlins come into town for 3 as well before the Giants go on the road to Minnesota next week. Wow. So, we talked about this last week, which is, you're kind of hanging around teams that are all around 500, still early in the season. And here we are, the Phillies 20-20 and the Marlins 20-21. So, Giants, if you're going to make a run, this is a pretty good time, because there's a lot of people losing faith here. I think it's a little bit too early to lose faith, but I also don't blame fans for losing faith, because this season does feel a lot more like last year. Not even last year in the beginning, because at the beginning it was awesome, and then they just kind of periodically throughout the season just got averager and averager. And that's kind of what it feels like right now, even though you can look at Logan Webb and he's, pretty much who he's always been. DeSclafani's been up and down, but every bad start seems to be excusable because of some silly injury, like dropping a piano on your toe.
Is this is he John Lennon or Paul McCartney or Elton John? What's going on, man? Why, stay away from the piano. I know he was helping his kid. So I got to give him that. But look at this. This doesn't weigh that much.
The uke, baby.
If you drop the ukulele on your foot, you go, "Oh, was that a feather?" So you can just, you could just get one of these and
there you go.
Right? Super easy.
I hope YouTube doesn't hit us for copyright on those
for playing the C chord 3 times.
So what are your thoughts on VR going down? This was the move that I was hoping they were going to make. Not that I'm into this thing of like, who's the newest, sexiest prospect now, and then you got to get rid of last year's sexiest prospect. But there's just the mere fact that he just wasn't hitting, and that's what he's brought up here to do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's unfortunate, but you know what? He's got to get his sea legs back under him. He was such a shot in the arm last year when he came up. And then this year, Casey Schmitt is that shot in the arm. So I think, VR kind of sees that. And you know how baseball is. It's supremely mental. and they basically handed him the third base job in spring training.
That's what they said, right? That's what
all the
interviews
interviews.
All the Kapler and Farhan all said, VR's our guy.
Yeah, so when you do that and it's a mental game, all of a sudden you go, I'm a young kid who came up last year and showed what I had. Now I've got all the pressure in the world to keep this third base job. But, really, and he was even given a shot at second base. And that, fielding wise, that didn't go well.
Rough.
That's just not who he is. So yeah, it's tough. I'd love to see him. He's such an important part of this Giants team of the future. Him and Luis Gonzalez, whenever he gets healthy, is another player who the Giants are going to look to in the next year or two to kind of shore up this lineup. JD,
yeah, and when you say that, you're not saying VR is going to be like the linchpin of guys like him, guys like Gonzalez, they help with your depth because you have a young player who's on a low salary, and so he helps fill your bench out by not being a giant contract. And if they can come off the bench and hit, or if they can spot start and hit, they're so valuable to the way that the Giants do lineups. But when you're hitting 148 and I'm going to guess, now I don't know this for sure, but I'm going to guess because his plate appearances are a little lower, that per plate appearance, he's got like the highest strikeout rate on the team. And that's just what he's doing. He's just striking out, and, he's barely laying wood on the baseball at all. Hitting 148, 240 on base, 318 slugging with his 4 home runs. So yeah, you want guys like him to show that they can be valuable even when they're not playing 100% of the time, because realistically, we like to make this joke sometimes. He's kind of like a quadruple A player, right? He does he's too good for triple A, and he's not good enough for the pros quite yet, which also, though, makes him more valuable than a guy like Ramos, because at least he showed in triple A that he could hit the baseball very well. So I'm still hopeful that he can be a depth piece later. But when you have JD Davis, who's hitting well, and then you basically say, hey, Casey Schmitt, you're our future. We're going to give you a shot. We're going to prioritize you here by sending the guy last year we did this to down. That's a nice thing for Casey Schmitt, and he started out very well. So, it's keeping us, kind of paying attention to his ABs and all that. He's like the new car, right? You're like, the new car. We can I get a ride in your new car? And there's going to be a point where he's not hitting 458, right? Probably pretty soon. Like, he'll probably, if he's like every other rookie, he'll be hitting in the 240s or the 250s at some point this year. But he's the new car, and we like the new car smell. So David VR, he's got a couple stains in the on the seats from this year. So yeah, he goes back down.
He dropped the coffee. Yeah. Was driving, coffee in the hand, dropped it on the seat. But, and it's not even Casey Schmitt who kind of pushed VR back down. Brett Wisely has been able to fill in center field, second base. He could play shortstop if you need him to. He's a guy who can play around the infield and the outfield and pick up those at-bats, and his at-bats are getting better and better. He's hitting the ball hard. He's making good contact. And that's what the Giants want. VR was striking out quite a bit. Defense was okay at third, not very good at second base. Then you got another guy. So not only was Casey Schmitt breathing down his neck, Brett Wisely, now you've got Tyler Fitzgerald, a shortstop infielder, who was just promoted from Richmond up to Sacramento. He's played in 11 games there. He's hitting 326 with 3 home runs, 9 runs driven in, 7 walks in 11 games. So now you got a guy like that too, who is kind of knocking on the door. So, I think VR's got to go down and just kind of show his worth and show everybody who he was. Gosh, he was the AAA PCL. They even call it the PCL anymore. The AAA West, whatever you want to call it, Player of the Year. So that's awesome, and so we know he still has it. But that brings up the point: do you start looking at a guy like him as a trade piece? do you start to look at him and say, can we move him and get like a 7th inning left-handed reliever? I mean, well, different things that they can do. So they have to start getting creative soon if you are going to have guys starting to hit at the AAA level.
Yeah. So what's some other news that came out? Well, Darren Ruff, we talked about him getting DFA'd last week. He will not be back with the Giants. He did not escape through waivers. Milwaukee Brewers, right? It was Milwaukee.
Yep.
Milwaukee signed him. So good luck to Darren Ruff, except against us. You can hit every other team, especially the Dodgers and the Padres. But so he will not be back. And it looks like Mike Yastrzemski should be back sooner than expected. We are not yet. We are just almost halfway through this month. And I think originally people were thinking, more towards the second half of the month when he would be back from his hamstring injury. So it looks like they will get, another outfielder guy who they depend on to hit right-handed pitching. So that will be a nice little piece back for the Giants, and hopefully good news because, yesterday and the day before, losing, not scoring very many runs against Arizona in Arizona, and you just rely on your starters to do a little bit too much. So that's hopefully he can bring some offense back with him.
Yeah, and that's another piece, right? Another bat in the lineup that the Giants really need, left-handed bat. So, I mean, right now they're very balanced. Like the lineup we threw out yesterday was one of the most balanced lineups I've seen us throw out in a long time. I mean, I'm pretty sure it went left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, all the way down, which was awesome to see. Because then you don't have to worry too much about the line changes happening later on in the game. A left-handed specialist comes in, right-handed specialist later, then they have to kind of work their way through the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see more balance to the lineup. The Giants just don't have that right now. I enjoy, like, when you're facing Kershaw, throw all of your right-handers against that, but we don't have like Ronald Acuna Jr., so we don't have those right-handed power bats and average bats that are just going to destroy a pitcher like Clayton Kershaw. So, if we can stay balanced, I personally like that a little bit more than the right-handed or left-handed heavy lineups.
Yeah, no, it's what they want to do. And when it's so funny because they lose one player and all of a sudden it looks like there's like the way that they try to do things is all now jacked up. Oh, we can't do this anymore. And, hopefully they are more comfortable in that balance. You had texted me a couple of other things that are to update fans about. Luke Jackson, our guy, used the force. Luke Jackson, he of the UCL reconstruction. He threw 1 inning yesterday for San Jose, so that's some progress there.
And that's a great arm for the bullpen because the bullpen is such a hot point right now of the season that seeing Luke Jackson come back would be awesome. That's who the Giants signed. They expected to get him around June, so we're kind of on point for that.
And then Austin Slater has a hammy issue, and he is continuing to rehab. And then Jock day-to-day with a right hand contusion. I think they should, Jock's day-to-day. I think Jock should just be day-to-day for like the rest of the season. Like, just give him the excuse, right? Like, we know something's hurting. Like, he's at that age of being a player where he's like, I swing really hard. I run and I'm limping. And so it's just let's go.
I'm day-to-day to get out of bed every day. I could tell you that much. I get out of bed and it's like, am I going to stay out of bed or am I going to head right back in? Yeah, I'm with him.
So, I just got a report from Alex Pavlovich. He didn't send it to me directly, but he tweeted it.
Hang on. Oh, there you go. I think you got it too. Yeah.
Yastrzemski came off the IL, but Jock goes on the IL. So Jock is not day-to-day anymore. he's officially on the injured list. So there you go. Nice,
but that's good because you don't have to worry about trying to option somebody, pass somebody through waivers, or, do any of that stuff. Yeah, I guess the candidate to go down would have been Brett Wisely at that point. But at this point, it gives Jock Peterson a little bit of a rest. You get a left-handed bat back. You send a left-handed bat to the IL. That's fine. I mean, that's a good exchange. I want to see Jock healthy. I want to see him swinging the bat hard like he does, hitting the ball 158 miles an hour off the bat. No, nobody does that, but still.
Yeah. All right. So where are we going to go next? I think we should go. Why don't we go player of the week here?
Yeah.
Good. I have a feeling I know who's going to win this one.
Yeah, it's not. You know what? I thought about doing the player of the week, and I was like, oh, I got to get the player of the week up. We got to get the poll going. Gosh, it's going to be tight. And then I completely forgot about a particular player who came up this week, and I was like, oh, well, okay. But so we threw it out there, player of the week. I threw 3 out there like I normally do. Coming in last place, Logan Webb, 14 innings pitched this week. A 2.94 FIP, 10 strikeouts in those 14 innings, 12 hits, 2 earned runs in 14 innings, and he went 1-0 because yesterday was kind of a hard luck. He didn't take the loss, but it was kind of a hard luck game against Arizona where they lost 2-1 in extras, or not in extras. It was actually bottom of the ninth. But Logan Webb, after a week like that, comes in last place because of the winner. Coming in second with, I think, maybe 1 vote was Michael Conforto, who's finally starting to kind of heat up a little bit. He hit 273 on the week, had a 195 weighted run creation plus. That's good for 3 home runs, 5 runs scored, 4 ribs. But the winner, player of the week, the obvious choice, Casey Schmitt, 93.8% of the vote.
There you go.
255 WRC plus, which is ridiculous. 458 average, 2 home runs, 5 runs, 5 RBI. The new anointed saint to take us to the promised land, Casey Schmitt. I can't imagine the weight on that kid's shoulders right now. The Giants fans have been frothing at the mouth for a hitting prospect to come up since Brandon Belt, right? I mean, that was probably the last hitting prospect to come up for us that we thought this is going to be the guy. Congrats to Casey Schmitt, your first player of the week on the Thompson to Clark podcast, and we hope you get many, many more.
Now, let's make this a slightly more extended Casey Schmitt conversation. So, obviously, very small sample size,
right?
But there is excitement, right? Like he comes out, and we had made this joke on the podcast, like, what's his first hit? And I said it was going to be his 4th AB, and he was going to go yard, and then he just goes yard in his second at bat. So that you can't really have a bigger splash than to come in and just go yard. And then he went yard the next game, or one of the next game. I think it was like the first game in Arizona, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So that'd have been what, Thursday?
That's when he went 4 for 4.
And he goes upper tank in Arizona, 460 some odd feet. So you can't really go wrong with the start. I think the worry is that when Crawford comes back, how much is he going to play? Because J.D. Davis, who also plays his position and is the veteran of the team right now on that side of the infield with Crawford, he's got 7 home runs, 22 RBI, and he's hitting 293. So you can't sit J.D. Davis. He's one of your 2 best hitters on the team. He and Tyra, I guess you go Lamont. So one of your 3 best hitters on the team right now. So when Crawford comes back, do we all of a sudden see a platoon situation with B-Craw, where B-Craw plays against the righties and Casey Schmitt plays shortstop against the lefties? And then he and JD Davis, maybe if it's also a left-hander and they don't want to do that, then maybe one of JD and Casey plays third and the other DH, just so that they can do some stuff. I just wonder, how much do you think we see Casey Schmitt play when Brandon Crawford comes back?
Well, so Brandon Crawford is back. So
he is back.
Yeah,
he's back.
Right. Yeah. But his first game was yesterday. So the sample of that, let's take a look at the sample. So they started against Brandon Pfaadt, who is he's a righty, correct? Yes, he's a righty. So righty yesterday in Brandon Pfaadt, righty today in Brogdon for Philadelphia. So we don't know yet, because Brandon Crawford started yesterday and he's starting again tonight. Schmitt is at second base tonight. JD Davis was DH yesterday. JD Davis is at third tonight. And like I said, Casey Schmitt at third yesterday, second tonight.
Yeah.
So lots of flexibility. And I see what you're saying. I don't know if the Giants at this point want to sacrifice defense for lefty-righty matchups. I would hope not. I would hope that Brandon Crawford stays in there. He's going to get his rests because he's got the bum knee.
Yeah.
He's an old man. He's got a cane. No, he's not that old. I mean, what is he, 35 years old, 36? But I would hope personally that they keep Crawford and Schmitt on the left side of the infield as much as possible. Although JD Davis has worked on his defense over the last year or two, and defensively he's played really well, except for he was playing really well. Casey Schmitt's first game in the major leagues when he was playing shortstop, JD Davis made 2 plays at third where he kind of bobbled the ball. And I thought, I wonder if he is kind of feeling the pressure a little bit of like, I want to prove that I could play third base. Then that way, when Crawford comes back, you got JD Davis, Crawford, and then Schmitt at second base. And Tyro's I think Tyro's DHing tonight. So he's kind of getting a little bit of a rest from his legs. So even though the platoon makes sense, I don't think it happens. I think they're going to try to keep the best defensive team on the field because the Giants have so many sinker ball and ground ball pitchers. I think they're going to want to go with defense on the field first and foremost.
What do you see out of his swing? Some of it could entirely be, they don't really know him, right? These pitchers don't know him. Right. They're relying on a really small book of AAA and AA stats and stuff and data that they have. He obviously is a strong dude to be able to do what he did in those couple games. But I do wonder, like, he wasn't tearing it up in AAA when they brought him up, and that is a hitter's league. So some of this may be, a little falsified. And I really wonder what kind of hitter he is, based on what we've seen so far. AA, he tore it up. So that's that's different. That's a different thing. But I'm very interested to see how he attacks, or how right-handed pitchers attack him, I guess is probably a better way.
I honestly think in the majors, he's probably a 270, 280 hitter. He's probably a 20 home run guy, maybe 18, 20, 22, somewhere in that range. But he's going to be a guy who saves runs. And he's also going to be a guy who will not be a liability in the lineup. He's going to be a guy who can make some contact and make some noise. And I think that's what the Giants need, honestly, right now in every position. And Brandon Crawford was that for years, right? He was a guy who was not an easy out in the lineup. He was a tough out. There were a few years there where Brandon Crawford was a tough out. He had some pop, but you could not take him out of the lineup because you needed him to save you runs and make plays. And I think that's what Casey Schmitt is going to become as well.
I remember Kruko said one time he thought Crawford was going to be a batting title winner.
Wow.
A batting leader for average.
Yeah.
I watched his left-handed swing against left-handed pitching, and I was like, not so sure about that. If he could just keep raking righties, then sure. But
that's not Will Clark on a slider from a left-hander where he would just take it and poke it into left field.
Yeah.
And another knock, 2 for 4 again.
Yeah, that's not Crawford style there, but
Mm-mm.
and yeah, I mean, he's the best Giant shortstop in history. So even if he never got to that status that Kruko saw, he's still a great player. He won't make the Hall of Fame, but he's going to make he may not even get a statue, but he's going to be around this franchise for a very long time.
Yeah. Are you saying better than Johnny LeMaster? Is that what you're telling me?
Better than Johnny LeMaster,
Don't go there.
Better than the late Jose Uribe.
Uribe. Yeah, those were the good old days.
Edgar Renteria.
Edgar Renteria. He wasn't around long enough to be considered,
but he was on the World Series team. Yeah.
Well, I mean, all he had to do was hit the game-winning home run to win the World Series in 2010, and he did that. So he's up there. I mean, he's like top 5 just because he did that. So, yeah.
What about Jose Vizcaíno?
Ooh. Yeah.
There was one shortstop that the Giants had for a year or two, and his trivia note about him was that he didn't wear a cup.
Oh.
It was a guy that they had picked up from the Tigers. I'm forgetting his name, but he played shortstop for a little while for the Giants.
That wasn't Vizcaíno?
I don't think he
played
Vizcaíno.
For the Tigers. No, okay.
But
and then we had Omar Vizquel.
Omar Vizquel. Even when he was 75 years old, he was picking it.
That's right, man. He was playing some good shortstop. Holy moly!
All right,
didn't wear a cup. I got to figure out who that was.
Yeah,
living dangerous.
We'll figure it out. Yeah. All right, let's get to the drink. What are we drinking? I went very simple because I went in my cabinet today and I was like, I didn't really have anything on the mind. I didn't have anything that I wanted to impress you with. We did the mix last week where I took the old fashioned mix, though I have a different one that I'm saving. I didn't want to go back to back old fashioned, but I did want to tell you that we did do the for JJ's party. He graduated. We did do the beer. What was the beer that I was telling you that we were going to do? Modelo. Yeah. And turns out that a lot of JJ's friends couldn't make it because they had their own parties. Their own families were in town. Yeah. So we had this 24 pack of Modelo and nobody was drinking it. So my uncle, he goes, all right, we got all these Modelos. I haven't had a beer in 20 years.
What?
That's what he said. And so there's like 10 of us, and we just had one just for celebration. So nice. I did have one Modelo this weekend.
Pretty decent.
It was refreshing. It's like,
it's
the lightest thing, and it's the carb intake is a little high for my taste, but it was totally fine. I enjoyed it.
That's the biggest problem with beer is when it's cold, when the beer is cold and the weather is hot and you've got a light beer, it turns into, hey, I'm drinking a light beer. But when you have 3 of them, you're like, I might as well have just had a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale because I just downed 3 low-calorie beers. So,
yeah, the other thing that's funny about Arizona, we went to Friday night. We went to technically it was an Irish pub, but it just felt more like a sports bar to me. And we had a bunch of people, and my ex-wife and her, they're not technically divorced, but they're separated. Her current husband, they were there. My kids were there. My wife was there, and a couple of Brian's friends were there. And I was like, okay. My ex-wife put in money for food for the little party that they were throwing for the graduates. And I was like, okay, I got it. I'll take care of bill, food, beer, whatever. And like in the back of my mind, I always forget to do the Arizona math. In the back of my mind, I was like, okay, the bill should be around $250 or $300, let's say. Yeah. And then when I get the bill and I'm like, $99, like what's going on? And then I was like, oh yeah, the Arizona math. I always forget to do the Arizona math when I'm there. And so then I made sure to tip our bartender very well because I was like, it's ridiculous that
do they have low sales tax or not any sales?
It's just the drinks are so much cheaper than any Bay Area like fancy schmancy bar where cocktail is $20 in the Bay Area and it's like $8 in Arizona. So
that's crazy.
I think what we need to do is every time I want to go get a drink, we just need to fly out to Tucson.
Yeah,
Fly out to
exactly.
Tucson, get some drinks, and then fly back. And it might still be cheaper than it is in the Bay
Well,
Area.
I'm telling you, that's how it is here in Reno. It's weird because you can go to a fancy place in Reno and you could pay, 15, $16 for a cocktail. Then you could go to a casino and you could pay $8. Then you can go to Tahoe, which is 30 minutes away, and then you could pay $20+. So it's touristy, it's kind of all over the place. So we have our special places we go. We have our list of happy hours. Because if you don't hit those happy hours here at some of the places, my God, it's crazy. I think I paid $3.75 for a pint of beer during happy hour at one of our favorite places about a week ago, and I'm like,
there you go.
We got to keep coming back here, man.
Dude, you go to Oracle. That thing's $20.
Oh, easily, man, insane.
So I didn't even mention my drink. Brad's suggestion to me was if you're a fan of Trader Joe's, to get the Kentucky's Best bourbon, because it's a good mixing bourbon. It's not your drink straight or on the rocks bourbon. It's your mixing bourbon. Yeah. So that's what I grabbed. And then I went to I've mentioned this before. I like the flavored Coca-Colas, which they call Move, limited edition Move. And so it's like some wacky flavor. It's just some sort of taste to it. And so that's what I had. And I mixed it in for my cocktail tonight. I don't even know what the flavor is. It looks like it just says Move limited edition. It's called Coca-Cola Creations. So whatever Move is, that's what I got.
So whenever you drink that, does your Move ring on your watch? Does that change? No.
Yeah, like it should have something. It should give me like extra energy or caffeine or something.
Well, we didn't talk about this, but I'm drinking Kentucky's Best also.
There you go.
I like to do because I was going to just pour like an Evan Williams, which is kind of my go-to, and they're like the sponsors of Major League Baseball and everything. That has nothing to do with it, but I like Evan Williams. It's one of the most tasty, inexpensive bourbons you can get. Any type of Evan Williams is just fantastic. But I like to mix my Kentucky, and it was hot today, so that's why I was like, I'm not going to have straight bourbon.
Yeah,
I'm going to mix it with something cold like you. The Zevia caffeine-free cola, and then toss it in a pint glass with some ice. And it's kind of weird colored because
no food coloring.
Yeah, Zevia doesn't do caramel coloring. They don't do. I mean, really, the ingredients are like citric acid, stevia, and like natural flavoring. I mean, that's pretty much it. So, and carbonated water, because you got to throw that in there. But it's nice and refreshing. It's 77 degrees today, and it's just going up the next couple of days.
71 out here, which is a lot different than the 95 or whatever it was in Tucson when I was.
God, yeah, we're gonna hit the mid to upper 80s like the rest of this week. So I'm kind of buckling down because when Reno gets hot, it gets hot, and the air it doesn't move if it's not windy. So yeah, I'm getting my drink on.
All right, so let's see what should we talk about next. Let's talk about a game that we're gonna play. It's called Real or Not Real, and I want to look at this is our quarter of the season check-in, and some of the numbers are a little weird. Some of the numbers are great and may not be that great when it comes to the end of the season, but I just wanted to mention one thing. Grant Brisby kind of had the same idea as us, and he wrote his like quarter season check-in, and he was talking about the free agents. He was like, Carlos Correa, he is not playing well. Guess what? Aaron Judge, he's playing okay, but he's not Aaron Judge yet. The problem isn't that the Giants missed out on those guys. The problem is who the Giants signed. So if you add up the Giants' 5 big free agents, they have a cumulative -2 WAR. That means if you compare them to a replacement level player, they are -2 wins compared to that player. So you put your random player who's the most average of the average major leaguer, and our 5 free agents are worse than that guy at each position. So that can't stay that way, or else the Giants are not, they're just going to go down now, because they actually need. We've talked about Manaea and Stripling a few times, a little bit about Taylor Rogers, but Conforto and Haniger. You mentioned Conforto's week last week where he looked like he was picking it up a little bit. Haniger's also coming off an injury. He didn't really have a spring training, so we're just hopeful that based off of those guys' resumes, that they're going to bounce back to whatever their average season is. And that's going to be way better than what it is right now. As far as the pitching is concerned, I'm not sure. I have no idea. I'm not sure Manaea has any idea where the ball's going right now, right? Like he's obviously struggling with some stuff. And Stripling is just like, I know where the ball's going. It's just going over the fence. That's where it's going. So exactly. He's just giving up the home run ball. But I wanted to look at some of the numbers, and I wanted you to tell me, is this a real number, or is this number going to either be much better than it is right now, or worse, or is it actually a real number? And I'm going to start with Thairo Estrada's batting average. Right. Now, when I last looked at this, I think it was 2 weeks ago, he was hitting much better. I think he was hitting in the 340s. And I saw his BABIP, and it was like over 400. And I was like, okay, that is not sustainable. That's going to come down. And it looks like it has come down quite a bit. But 314 with 6 jacks, that player with his 11 stolen bases, he is possibly an all-star caliber player right now. And I was wondering if you thought the offensive numbers were real, or if they may be slightly inflated and he will come down a little bit to, maybe more of an average of what we thought he would be.
Well, let's look at his lifetime, including this year. His lifetime OPS plus is 106. Last year, it was 104. Year before that, it was 118. This year, it is 134. So it's definitely inflated. But in all honesty, I think it's inflated because he's becoming a better player. Mm-hmm. I think he's one of those ones who is progressed each year. And so I'm going to say that's real. Is he going to finish 315? Probably not. Is he going to finish over 300? Yeah, I think he can easily finish over 300. He's getting the opportunities. He's playing more confident defense. So yes, I think that's a real number.
All right. I think it's closer to real than it's not real as well.
Right.
Because, and he's never going to be a guy who takes a bunch of walks, right? So he's probably, if this is a peak year for him, I could see him hitting 285, 290, which is not that different from what he's hitting now. It is a little bit of a more averaging out what he really is. But the thing that separates him from the normal second baseman right now is the 11 stolen bases, and he's just hitting pop, right? He's got a little bit of pop in his bat right now, which I think we feel he's always had. He's been so susceptible to the strikeout. I think that's always going to be a problem for him. He's on pace to strike out probably like 115, 120 times this year, and only walk maybe 30 times, 40 times. So he's going to have to be a little lucky with the BABIP. The one thing, though, about him, he is pretty much the only player who is, I guess you could say there are two players. He and Lamont Wade are the only two guys who are pretty much playing every day. Conforto and J.D. Davis also are playing at most of the games, but as far as you can't take this guy out of the lineup, so he's going to get his chances.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's about time the Giants had a steady player that they can count on to hit over 300 for the next couple of years. And I think definitely Tyro's that guy. Fun to watch. I mean, God, I love watching Tyro play.
Yes.
A lot of talk recently about the Giants being a boring team and this and that. I mean, honestly, Tyro and Lamont Wade Jr. at the top of the lineup are an exciting way to get things going. And when everybody else starts doing something other than home run or strike out, down the rest of the lineup, then those guys are going to score more runs, and it's going to, the runs per game are going to go up. Yeah, it's boring right now. There's not excitement, but honestly, I don't buy jerseys very often, especially of guys who are younger than me. It's always kind of weird, but I would sport a Tyro jersey. I mean, yeah, I think that would be cool.
Kind of like that Estrada on the back. You know who Casey Schmitt's number is?
Is he Hunter Pence?
He is the namesake of this podcast. Robbie Thompson's number 6. Also,
he took 6.
JT Snow's number 6.
That's right.
So that's not a bad one either if he picks it up. So Tyro currently leads all of the offensive players. He's tied with Lamont with 38 games played. He is by 30 at-bats over JD Davis, the highest in at-bats. He's on target to get close to or right around 600 if he keeps playing the same amount of games, doesn't get hurt. Keep your fingers crossed. Leads the team in runs, leads the team in hits, leads the team in doubles, and leads the team in stolen bases, as well as batting average. So he's really having a great season, and it's so fun to see. And I hope that he continues because they're going to need it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'm going to give you one more offensive player, and then we'll go to the pitching side of things.
Okay.
The offensive player, and we'll stay positive, is Lamont Wade. Lamont Wade also has 7 home runs. He leads the team, or actually Tyro only has 6. So Tyro is second on the team in home runs. Lamont, JD Davis, and Michael Conforto lead the team in home runs with 7. Lamont has 27 walks, which gives him an on-base percentage of .427. Is the on-base percentage of .427 real or not real?
A .427 on-base percentage is usually like Ricky Henderson numbers, right? I mean, that's it's not sustainable. It's real right now, but like you said, by the end of the season, that is not a real number. I think it's going to be closer to like 380, 390. I think he could be close to a 400 on base percentage guy. No problem. Because when you look at what he did in the minors, so he had 7 years in the minors where he out walked the strikeouts. He had 327 walks and 300 strikeouts in the minors.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. So I think it's sustainable. His on base percentage in 7 years in the minors, 411. 391. College, 394. Majors in 5 seasons, 338. So that's got to come up. I mean, It's kind of historically who he is. He was hurt last year. What was his on base percentage last year? It was close to 300, right? 305.
Yeah, he just didn't hit well last year. But
yeah,
even in his late night Lamont season of 2021, it was only 326.
Yeah.
So I think, they were talking about his eye and how, Willie Mays was saying that, he had an eye that reminded him of Barry. And so Willie Mays is giving him praise. I think 427 is probably high. Like you, I agree that it's probably not realistic, but could it be a 380 or 390? I think that would be so fantastic for him because what it would do is it would make him stop swinging at bad pitches if he really trusts that eye. His strikeouts will go down. Last year, he was 2 strikeouts for every walk. The year before, he was about 2.75 for every walk. So now he's a 1-to-1. So that is quite the change. And some of it is that he doesn't have to hit against every, the best lefties, right? He's not having to hit against those guys necessarily all the time. And so it's very helpful for him to be in this the lineup that they run out there. I think it is probably more real than not, but I agree with you. I'm thinking like if he's at 380 by the end of this year, it's fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. I think honestly anything above like 360, 370 is going to be great because that'll be a career high for him. But I think absolutely, I think he could be 390. I think he kind of took it to heart when Brandon Belt left. He was like, okay, I need to be the human strike zone radar. So I need to, I need to keep my eye and I need to make it even better. They're trusting me with the leadoff spot. I know Nick Martinez, one of our friends of the show, known him for years. First game of the season, he texted, "Why the hell is Lamont Wade Jr. leading off?" and now we know, 40 games later, now we know Lamont Wade Jr. is leading off because the guy has an eye for the strike zone, and it's just phenomenal. And it's fun to watch too. I mean, he'll take some pitches, and there'll be strikes, and he'll know there's strikes, but he's kind of setting up. He's looking for a particular pitch. If he can get on. Here's the main problem. So he's getting on. His on base percentage is 427.
They're not
in 38 games. In 38 games, he scored 17 runs. I mean, that's a problem, and that's not his problem. That's people behind him. That's their problem. So strikeout or home run, that's got to change at some point. So
agreed. All right, I'm going to give you one pitcher now. There are some gimmies here, and these to me. These are not realistic. Alex Cobb, 1.7 ERA. The guy's given up more hits than innings pitched, so I don't think that ERA is very real. Though, I do think he is throwing strikes, which is the big deal. He's only walked 8 guys in 47.2 innings. DeSclafani's even better. 5 walks and 50 innings. And Logan Webb, man, this guy's slacking. 11 walks and 59 innings. The Giants starting pitchers throw strikes unless you're Sean Manaea. He's the only one who's not really throwing strikes. Even Stripling he's not as good, but he's not walking guys. And I was thinking like, okay, do we do a Taylor Rogers? No, because he's having a bad year. He'll probably come back to the norm of what he is. Is it Brebbia? No, Brebbia will probably be a little bit better than he is. And so then I just circled back to DeSclafani because DeSclafani, even though he had the rough start where he gave up all those runs and early in the game, he's at a 3.06 ERA, 50 innings. So he's actually going deeper into games. That's over 6 innings per start for DeSclafani, which is tremendous. Wow. 43 hits in those 50 innings. And like I said, he's only walking 5 guys. He's only given up 1 home run in the 50 innings, which is great. He's not striking out a bunch of guys, but that's not really his game. 0.96 whip, 0.230 batting average against for DeSclafani. Is this real, or is last year's DeSclafani where he's a 6.63 ERA? So basically, the question is the 2021 DeSclafani the real DeSclafani, or is the 2022 DeSclafani the real DeSclafani?
Like you said, I think this one's an easy one. I think he's the 2021 DeSclafani. Last year, he was hurt, never really got things going. I think one of those games was against the Dodgers where they just ripped him a new one. This DeSclafani is pitching out of his mind, which is fantastic. So stay away from the goddamn piano, though. I mean, for crying out loud. Like I said, pick up the ukulele. It's a lot lighter. You can drop it on things. It's not a problem. I think the way he's pitching now is absolutely more like the 21 DeSclafani, and I think that's who he is. I think we're going to see more of that as the season goes on. Very exciting because if he pitches this way, and if Cobb is real and he pitches that way, and Webb, we know Webb is real and we know he pitches that way, and then you bring up a Kyle Harrison midway through the season, you could have a nasty 4-man rotation right there. And if you can sneak into the playoffs with that 4-man rotation being hot, things could look good. But yeah, I think this is the 21 Disco and not the 22.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think his the one thing that I'd be concerned about is the strikeouts are actually way down from the 2021. So if that is the case, more balls being put in play, Giants defense still not fantastic. His ERA may sneak up a little bit. The hits per 9 may sneak up a little bit, but I do think closer to 21 than 22, and that has to do with health, right? So let's make sure that the toe or whatever is the frustration. Let's make sure that's right. We got 17 starting pitchers according to to Kapler, so let's make sure he's good so that he comes back and he's pitching healthy and not injured like last year.
And to circle back too, that was kind of a thing at the beginning of the season, as the Giants said, kind of in the offseason, they worked with the pitchers and said, we need more strikeouts. We need you to strike out more batters, because the more batters you strike out, yes, your pitch count goes up.
Yeah.
The less balls are in play, the less the defense has to work. But now with Casey Schmitt up, and again, like we were saying earlier, Casey Schmitt at third, Brandon Crawford at short, and then or even to make it, I think it's a more solid defense if you go JD Davis at third, Brandon Crawford at short, Casey Schmitt at second. I think you've got a very solid defense right there. So yeah, you don't have to worry about striking out batters. I think the Giants' philosophy may change at that point, because article I read earlier in the year, Logan Webb wanted to use his 4-seamer more as the kill pitch to get more strikeouts. That hasn't happened. The Giants' strikeout numbers are not up compared to last year per 9. And don't quote me on that, but I haven't looked it up, but I don't feel like it. I don't feel like I'm seeing more strikeouts than I did last year. I'm seeing more balls put into play. But if they're making plays, not a big deal, especially if after you walk a batter and you can get a ground ball, you could turn a double play, get out of the inning, not extend it, and just throw one pitch to get something like that, then I'm not too worried about strikeout numbers when it comes to that.
I don't know what the Giants team is, but Webb is closer to 21 than 22 when it comes to strikeout per 9. 21, he was striking dudes out, man. This dude was striking out more than a dude in inning. So he's close to that. Last year he fell off a little bit, but he's closer to that.
Yeah, so maybe he is, doing what he wanted to do in the offseason.
Yeah, a little bit better than that. All right, so you had a little bit of a game here that you wanted to play, and go ahead and introduce that, and we'll just end the show with this game.
Yeah. It's kind of simple. It's nothing too complex. It's just, how would I make the Giants more fun to watch right now? I'm going to throw something out there, and then if you just off the top of your head and you have something that you think could make the Giants more fun. They're drawing 20,000 people
it's rough
to the games right now. And
I told Hot Take Bry, I was like,
yeah,
Warriors is over. We get out to the park.
Yeah, exactly. See, and that was part of it. A lot of attention was on the Warriors. It's still early. Weather hasn't been fantastic yet. Dodgers are coming to San Francisco less. Padres are coming to San Francisco less with this new schedule. But for me, one of the things I would say is to make baseball in San Francisco more fun, I want to see more things like, and I know a lot of people didn't like this, but I enjoy bullpen roulette. I don't know if you enjoy it as much as I do, but I enjoy when a guy is not pitching well, send him down, bring up another guy from the minors and see what they can do. Because they're always usually pitching out of their minds when they come up from AAA. The problem is, I was looking at the AAA pitching numbers. There are a lot more walks than I expected out of some of these guys.
You know why?
Why is that?
They have the robo-umps in AAA.
That's true. You know what? They do have the robo-umps there. So maybe they come up and we can get Angel Hernandez to call some 10 feet off the plate for you, make you feel better. But yeah, looking at guys like Ryan Walker, and I know you have to, if you're going to make any of these moves, you got to DFA people.
Yeah.
But I like that about the bullpen. There's guys in the bullpen that the Giants have right now that I thought, okay, well, they haven't really picked it up yet, and it's May, so maybe. And again, I'm all for taking a Sean Manaea and saying, okay, look, we're going to eat the rest of your contract. Oh, well, this didn't work out. Fans don't want to see that. You're not coming to the ballpark to watch Sean Manaea or Tristan Beck throw 3 or 4 innings of 5-run baseball. You want to see a guy like Ryan Walker, who in AAA right now, a .93 ERA with a .88 whip and 19 1/3 innings. He's got 21 strikeouts. He's got a save. He's a back-end bullpen guy. You look at another guy like Jorge Guzman, who's in Sacramento right now, a 2.00 ERA in 14 games, 14 strikeouts in 18 innings, a 1.17 whip, another guy in the bullpen. But again, these guys are walking guys, but like you said, they do have the robo-ump, so it's a little bit more difficult. But that's how I would kind of fun things up. I always got excited when the Giants would DFA a reliever or somebody else, and then like, we're bringing this guy up who throws 97 miles, 100 miles an hour. We're going to bring him up and see what he can do.
I mean, that was Duvall, right? That was Duvall 2 years ago.
Yeah, because you're going to hit on somebody who's got the intestinal fortitude to stay up there. But, when you're scaring guys and you're like, well, you're going to stay down in AAA, and these guys are throwing, 93-mile-an-hour fastballs, and they're getting tagged around, but we gave them a contract, so they kind of have to stick around. And I get the whole money thing of things, and I know it's not going to happen, but that's just one of my things to kind of fun things up a little bit.
No, yeah, I mean, I think that's really interesting, is to really see who you have in the bullpen. Like, let's bring up Keaton Wynn. This is like Keaton Wynn throws some innings, and Cole Waits has been up, and
but then and he got blown up, and then they send him back down. Well, keep him up for a little bit. Let's see what he can do. Let's see, let him get his legs under him. He pitched awesome at the end of last year, so
we got to find another Duvall. RJ Dabovich, bring him up too.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's what I was thinking when you were mentioning this. I thought there's one specific thing the Giants can do, and that is sooner than later bring up Kyle Harrison, because his starts become they might not become Happy Lincecum Day starts,
right?
But it's something, right? To where you kind of go like if the Giants announced today that Kyle Harrison is going to make his major league debut in San Francisco, let's say Saturday, I'd be like, what am I doing Saturday? Can I actually get out to the park on Saturday, see this kid's first start? I would. Are you
hearing this? Are you hearing this, Larry Bear?
Exactly. I would absolutely try and go to see that, because I want to see him. But there's a second person here. I looked at Mauricio Dubon. Not going to happen. Not Mauricio Dubon. Marco Luciano. For some reason, I always get these guys mixed up. The name. not the player, but the names.
Totally different players.
Luciano, he's got the back thing, and he's in Richmond. He's hitting like a $114 right now with a couple jacks. So he's taking some time, and really, he's going to play the left side of the infield. He's probably going to end up either a third baseman or an outfielder. There's no real spot for him just to plug him in, even if he just knocks the cover off the ball in Richmond. He's probably going to play Richmond. He'll get moved up to AAA, and next year will be the year where they kind of find a spot for him. So then I was like, okay, who else is in AAA right now? I think you do this at the same time. So maybe it's not this week. Maybe it's this time in June or this time in July. You go, you know what? Somebody gets hurt. Maybe it has to be Sable in order for this to happen. But we're bringing up Bailey and Harrison on the same day, and they're the battery that day. Rookie catcher, rookie pitcher. They know each other. Bailey's kind of the guy who's helping Harrison and vice versa, right? Bailey's not knocking the cover off of the baseball right now, but what you can do is if you really believe in Joe Bart, you have Joe Bart play against left-handed pitching. You have Patrick Bailey play against right-handed pitching, and you have your catcher position of young players. And in a sense, they're kind of competing against each other. From what Joe Bart said, he and Bailey, they root for each other. They're in, I think, were they in successive drafts or were they in like two drafts apart? I think they're two drafts apart.
I think they were two drafts apart. Yeah.
So I think that would be interesting. You have Bart, you have Bailey, you have Harrison, you have Schmitt. Those are 4 guys who are all from the last 5 drafts or so. And you kind of have to bridge this year it with the younger players, because will the Giants make a run for the wild card? We hope. It's possible, but that's going to be on the shoulders of Conforto and Haniger and JD Davis and your pitching staff, your starting staff just getting hot. It's going to be on their shoulders. But at the same time, if you can give these younger players who are going to have an opportunity to play for you in the big leagues, and we're not talking about a Ramos who it just doesn't seem like he's going to be that guy. We're not talking about a Bryce Johnson who could be a supplementary guy, but you're not expecting him to go out there and play center field for 150 games. These 4 players were drafted to be big time players for the future. Now, Joe Bart may never hit enough. Patrick Bailey may never hit enough, but you want to see. That's what would excite me to get out there, or to turn on that TV a little bit more when I'm like, wife and I are watching, season 9 of How I Met Your Mother. I'll catch up on the Giants game later. But that's what it's going to take, right? I want those opportunities to go, you know what? Kyle Harrison's pitching. I got to go out of my way to watch him. Patrick Bailey just came up, just like Schmitt. Got to go out of my way. I want to see his first AB, his second AB. That's what I think it's going to take. And I think if you bridge these 4 guys with your current team, which is a very veteran heavy, free agent heavy, guys who aren't going to be around for that long unless you sign them to extended deals, that would be a nice bridge for me to go, okay, now, we're paying attention to this season a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm 100% with you on that, because I love Giants games. At this age, it's hard. We can't watch every single one. But if I find it a little more rare lately where I'm like, ooh, tonight is a must-watch game. Like Casey Schmitt coming up. That was a must-watch game. Then the home run. So the next night became a must-watch game. We need to string those together like we did a couple of years ago. It's like, hey, this team is rolling. These are must-watch games. And that was my other one too. I was going to say, I love Blake Sable, but I think if he's stuck as a DH and an outfielder, because the way he's been hitting, he's up to like 260.
Yeah, he's up to like 255.
Yeah, and he's got power. He's got 6 home runs. They don't want to just jettison him and say like, okay, well, we'll send him back to Pittsburgh. I don't think they want to do that. So if they can keep him somehow as an outfielder and as a DH, and then bring up Patrick Bailey, then you could have that defensive catchers in Joey Bart and Patrick Bailey. Bailey is actually hitting 294 in May in AAA. So,
there you go.
But he is striking out.
Yeah,
quite a bit. 34 at bats in May. He struck out 10 times. I mean, that's a pretty good clip of strikeouts. But still, if he can come up and command a game for the pitchers, I think that's more important than anything, because now you've shored up the middle of the infield with Crawford and Schmitt, and then you get a good defensive catcher in Bailey. Then you just kind of have to worry a little bit more about center field. But at that point, you've injected that youth, you've injected that just kind of charisma and fun into the game. And I think, the veterans like Haniger and Conforto, they'll kind of latch onto that and say, okay, hey, we got a core here. it's time to pick things up. The young guys are doing stuff, so let's go.
I just wish
try to
they
get
had
that playoff spot.
I just wish they had a power bat that was like an outfielder, because then you could go, oh yeah, Conforto, he's going to be here for a year. He hits 25 jacks, then he's going to opt out and he's going to go somewhere else. You go, oh yeah, we have this young, unfortunately it's not Hunter Bishop. Unfortunately, it's not Elio Ramos. A lot of still have a lot of the guys who may become those guys in the lower level of the minor leagues. But yeah, I would like to see some advancement. I think that would keep me kind of interested, because if you go back to, what is it, 05, Kane comes up,
Right.
06, 07, Lincecum comes up, and then we get, in the late 2000s, Brandon Belt and Crawford, like those guys, they gave us a shot of energy, because those were old teams too. Those were really old teams, and you had this shot of youth that helped them get over the top. So that's what I want to see. I'm hoping that they could utilize these younger players to give this old, this old roster, it's kind of a journeyman roster in some instances too. Like Lamont Wade Jr. is a journeyman player who the Giants have given an opportunity to, and maybe he's going to be worth more. I think he's already worth more than a journeyman guy, but they're giving him an opportunity because they saw something in him. But they have journeyman spots on this roster where let's just put some youth in there and let's see what we can do. But I know this, this whole prospect stuff. You want to give these guys reps. You don't want to take them away. You don't, you want Patrick Bailey to be hitting every day. You don't want him to be hitting, 50% of the time. I get that piece of it, but that's what I want to see. That's what would get me to the park and make sure that I'm paying a lot closer attention. I mean, we already pay really close attention, but that would get me excited, I guess, is what was the question. So
yeah, for sure. And I think that's what it would take. I think it's the youth injection. I mean, really, we've been hearing about the minor league system for so many years, and this team made the playoffs a couple of years ago, and then last year 500, and then this year below 500. I think people just want to have something. They want to have a future to look for with this team, and I think, that's just unfortunately what it's going to take. And then making the move for Schmitt, bringing him up, that was really the first step. And I think that kind of is showing the fans that, hey, we're not afraid to. If these guys prove themselves in AAA, like Patrick Bailey continues to raise that average up, we're going to see him pretty soon. I would say probably 3 weeks, maybe. There's a good chance 3 to 4 weeks we're going to see Patrick Bailey up. And like you said, it may take an injury to a catcher at some point, but the first injury that happens to any catcher, that is your next guy in line. Ricardo Genovese, I don't think, is on the 40-man. So it's going to have to be, Patrick Bailey coming up, and, excited to see it. Don't want to see it because of an injury. I want to see it because of earning. I want to see Sable become more of a DH outfielder type of guy, because he plays a good outfield. Not great, but he plays a good outfield, and he makes some plays. It's just all of our outfielders have noodle arms. You can't have everything.
Yeah. All right. That is it from here. Like I said, Giants have an interesting home series, two series against. My wife said that I said series is the other day. I was like, no way. I would have never said
what?
Series is. And then I just go ahead and say it right now.
You said nobody says
that. Phillies, Marlins, they got some ground to catch up to because they're 17-23. I don't think that Giants fans were hoping for 17-23. Maybe the most cynical of us were like, just watch them be 17-23 after 40 games. But I don't want to be out of the wild card by the All-Star break. So they got some work to do. Let's flip it around. These next 40 games, 23-17, and let's be 40-40 at the end of 80 games, and then be on our way there. All right, for Brad, I am Double G. We'll see you next week. Peace out.
Peace.